All right, let's see here. Okay, we are all set. Good to go. All right. Now let's get this all set up here. Good morning, sir. I hope you can hear me. The last time I used this, the audio was kind of goofy. So I hope that it's working. Just let me know if it is, if you guys can hear me. I'm a little bit further away from my microphone. Okay, good. Mika Steve. What's up, guys? Yeah, just give me a second. I'm gonna share this out, and then we'll get this ball rolling. Your videos. Alrighty. Okay, good. I was just I was a little concerned with the sound, so I gotta get a little better camera on here. Let's actually, let's turn this a little bit so you guys can see me a little bit and what I'm doing. You guys get to see my mess of a basement, which will be a mess probably until the end of the month because I'm going to be changing all of that. So let's see. Let's see here. There we go. That's mucho gusto. Now you guys can see me. Okay. Get a cheap Econ. A what? A cheap Econ H9R? I have no idea what that is. Oh, for a camera you're talking about. Yeah, I was okay. So here's the whole thing. This whole area. So currently I'm set up on one side of my basement. Okay. And I'm planning on moving all my entertainment center because I don't really game as much as I used to. And I never really use that to its full potential like I do my upstairs one. It's almost the same setup. And I don't really need all these extra places here. So I'm going to move all this stuff and move it maybe to that wall or to the wall where my computer currently set up is. And then use this as my maker space. So I need to get some desks and just basically I'm gonna try and utilize that space as much as I can because it's just kind of being used for miscellaneous junk right now. So yeah, that's my my next thing. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into this. This is a pretty big box. So I'm just worried that I'm going to have to put it together like a regular Ender 3, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to. Oh, I can see it already. It's not as bad as a regular Ender 3. I will say that. Alright, so we got some really nice packaging. Wow, this is like beefy. So this is the LCD screen, but I don't remember this weighing that much. Maybe because it's the Ender 3 Max, they wanted to go all out. So we do have what looks to be a Meanwell power supply. We are going to set the... Can't get in there with that. We're going to set the power rating to 115. There we go. There's my alarm. We have our warranty, clippers, miscellaneous stuff, scraper, what have you. Now, come on. This is an Ender 3 Max. I'll probably burn through this filament in an instant. You guys need to give some better filament for that. Power cord. Our tube for the filament, which I never use those because you guys probably can't see it. It's right out of sight. I have the filament dryer by Sunlu over there. This is nice. I like this that they did this. So this is a side mount for filament. So that way the path of filament is the least resistant. Unlike the ones that are on top of the printer and then they come down. I never like those designs. This one's a little bit better, but it does take up even more space than the top load one. So there is room for improvement on this, but this is nice that they include this, and it's like an ABS injection molded plastic piece. So that's really, really nice. Do we need to take care on open? Maybe. Got some nice packaging. Really, really beefy. One good thing already is that this is way more put together than a regular Ender 3, Ender 3 Pro, or an Ender 3 V2. An Ender 3 V2, even you still have to put together the whole hot end. This is all put together already. So it's more like my G-Tech printers are, where it's the base and the upright, two pieces, you put it together, done. So this is much, much better. I like this. This is how an Ender should come. Okay, so we have our full upright there. I gotta fish around here and see what's up with these wires. Why they're stuck in here. Weird, weird packaging. So the hard thing about this is getting this piece out. It's a whole one piece. So let's put this off to the side. I'm going to try and keep this in an angle here. So maybe I can get this up over here so we can put it on the desk here on my maker table. We're basically going to grab the upright and the bottom and put it down on one. And that's pretty much it. There's nothing else in the box there. I'm just going to throw this off to the side for the time being. Get that all situated tomorrow. So yeah, it is a lot nicer. The strange thing about this is I thought this was going to be an upright, so like meaning that it was going to stand on the rails. It's not the case with this model. It actually stands on the side of the rails of the printer. The base rails is what I'm talking about. So it's not like your normal Ender 3s where they sit on the actual rails, the base rails of the printer. It sits on the side of them. and it attaches through the side. So it's a little different setup, but got some notches here. So setup is pretty simple in terms of that, as long as it slides in there. I think this is because this under, maybe? I'll have to look at that in a second here. So it does kind of have a little guiding issue on the sides here, but it does make for a very solid frame, so I kind of dig that. Alright, let's get into everything else that we need. Pull everything out. We have our qualified certificate, which is straight not true, ever. Creality invitation, be the next customer of Creality Cloud, which kind of already have a Creality Cloud service. Actually, I've got 2 of them. I think I even got a 3rd one somewhere. But yeah, one of those is going to my buddies. So, after sales service card. Thank you for your order. Okay. Ooh, one of the nice scrapers. I love these scrapers. So these scrapers are really nice to have because they have a nice bevel or serrated edge. It's even better than the one I use. Like, it's got more of a, it's not a serrated, I forget exactly what it's called, but an angled edge. I like that. Probably our standard cheap side snips, I'm guessing, most likely. Yeah. These things are always with the printers. Do I have a link for getting one? Yes, I do. I did not put it in the description. I can't really edit it right now, so I'll have to add that after the fact. But yes, there will be a link for those who are looking at the video. Actually, let me check. I might be able to add one. Let me see here. Let's go on here, and we'll just go. So I did get this from Amazon, and the price that I ordered it was $349. I ordered it from a shop called Tresbro, and let's see if we can link this in here. All right, so I did link it in the description, but there's also a link here that I'm going to paste up in chat. Okay, so there's a link in chat for you guys that are wondering about this. Yeah, so right now, just looking at it in terms of like against a regular Ender 3, there is a different hot end fan setup. This is more like the CRX setup, where it's got the 2 fans on each side, so for maximum cooling. I'm not 100% sure how well that's going to work because there is such a thing as too much cooling. So I'm a little concerned about that, but with that being said, that's better because you can actually tune and make your overhangs and everything. You can actually print very well with this. So that's that would be really cool for those who are willing to push the limits of their printer right out of the box. So that's really, really nice. We do have our standard Ender 3 Max SD card. Now, I will say when I use the one from the Ender 3 V2, which is pretty much the exact same card, it died as soon as I put it into my computer. Like, I'm not even joking. I put it in there, it read the card for about a second, I went and clicked on it, and then it erased the entire card. And it would not recognize after that. Even all my tips and tricks, I couldn't get it to recognize anymore. So we have PTFE holders. These are like the holders for the couplers. I'll be honest, if you use good couplers, that really shouldn't be needed. And actually, looking at this, looks like they did use the better couplers on that. I don't know about the hot end. Hot end looks like it's still got the old janky one, but I'm not so sure about the extruder. So we do have an extra 0.4 millimeter nozzle. We have a acupuncture needle, as I call them. Basically, it's a nozzle cleaner. We have what is it? 4 M5 6.5 65 millimeter bolts. We have 2 screws. I'm guessing that's for the screen. And then we have all of our Allen key sets with our adjustment wrenches for our wheels and a screwdriver, which I don't think you ever really need. And then we also have 2 M5 by 10. Actually, those should be for the screen. So the longer ones are probably for, maybe for the spool holder. Oh, you know what? It might be for the power supply. So let's take a look at the screen. The screen is your standard Ender 3 screen. They did not go with like the Ender 2 screen. I'll be honest, this one is just as good as, you know, any other screen out there. The only difference is it's not touchscreen and it just doesn't look fancy. It's your typical 8-bit style screen. But that's more than enough if you're just going to use the printer. If you know, you're using it for something else, then okay. I don't know offhand what type of board is on here, so I might end up tearing into this at some point to see what board they did put inside here. My guess is it's got a 1.15 board in it, but that remains to be seen. So, all right, let's go into the user manual here. Blah blah blah. All the points. Okay. So we have our main bolts. These are the really, really long ones. These are M5 by 65 millimeter. And these are going to be our frame bolts. So these are going to go into the side here. Should be 2 on each side. These are really, really long bolts. Like insanely long for what's needed. I'm just going to screw these in by hand and see if we can lock into them. Got the right side to lock in right away. Oh, that's nice. At least the top one. This is a very heavy machine. I really don't think that it needs these long of bolts. I'm not exactly sure why they have them on here anyway, but I mean, I guess it's a good thing. Make sure that super stability, but again, if you go with a wider bolt or a bigger bolt, whatever you want to call it, not a longer one, but a wider one, it'll probably do just as good. We're going to screw this in by hand because doing this with an Allen key is going to take forever. I do always suggest, you know, getting an automatic drill or something like that to do something like this, but when you torque it down, you probably want to do it manually, just to make sure that you're torquing it right. Let's see. I'm gonna guess it's this one. Bingo! And Bingo was his name. Well, we're gonna move this off to the edge here so we can properly tighten this. But so far, I like that that they kind of did this as an all-in-one. It's one of the reasons why I always liked the G-Tech printers over the Creality printers, because this is how they were set up always, as like a two-piece system. And what was it? It was always 2, 4, 6, 8 bolts, and you're done. So, one of the downfalls I can see already of this printer, it's a single Z. So stability is probably not going to be the greatest on this printer at times. It's one of the biggest downfalls of the Creality printers is that, well, the Ender series, more or less, is that they're single Zs. And they just always seem to have sagging gantry issue. But with that being said, you can probably upgrade this pretty easily to a dual Z setup. Probably using a CR10 style, because let's be honest, this machine is really just a CR10 rebranded as an Ender 3 because, well, Creality has the money to market it as an Ender 3, and since the Ender 3 sells like hotcakes, why not make a bigger version? And the other thing that I think the reason why they brought this out is because at the time this was released, which wasn't too long ago, the huge thing on the market was the Ender Extender series. So what it was is you basically take your normal Ender 3 and you upgrade it to a larger size volume. There was these guys that came out with these kits that you can upgrade your Ender 3 to a 300 millimeter build volume or a 400 millimeter build volume. They might even have bigger ones. I haven't really looked at it, but yeah, they have that. And then magically, here comes Creality with a Ender 3 Max, a CR10 basically. It's just the regular CR10. So, but it does have some extra things in it, like the Meanwell power supply and everything. So that's at least a nice upgrade with it. I really hope this is not free floating like the original one was, and it is. So, along with the issue of it being a single Z, there's also an issue that this power supply is resting on this gantry, or on this upright, more or less, I should say, not a gantry. But that's not necessarily a good thing because, well, it can cause the frame to bend, basically, and you have issues with it. Now, have people had issues with it? Nah. And the Meanwell power supply is a little bit lighter than like the regular cheap power supplies that come with the normal Ender 3 and the normal Ender 3. So it's not a huge deal, but still, I would expect it to be either on the ground, resting next to it, or even planted on the inside. Like, if they made this out of the Ender 3 V2, where the power supply sits inside of the frame, then that would be a whole heck of a lot better than what we're doing right here, because this is another point of possibility where you're going to have issues. And because you have the sagging gantry issue on this side, and then you have the power supply, you have two issues right there that can coincide with each other, where you can fix one issue but still have issues, and you'll be losing your mind. You're going to be like, what's going on? I fixed it, but yet you didn't fix it because you fixed one issue, not the other. So that's basically how that goes. Now we're going to plug in the screen and get that all situated. So yeah, pretty simple. I mean, what, we're, I don't know how much time we're in here. About a half hour or so, 25 minutes. So in a half hour's time, we basically set up an Ender 3, which is nice. That's how an Ender 3 should go. Any Ender 3. In my opinion. This a little forward. So yeah, in my opinion, this is how the Ender 3 series should be put together. There really isn't no other reason why it shouldn't be. It should be this easy every single time. Okay, so now we have our spool holder, and basically we're going to put that on this end. This is a very interesting design that they've come up with. It's a lock-in-place design. And you can use it any way. So what's kind of cool is if you had a secondary of this, you can actually put two different spools on there. Not saying you really should, but... So basically we want to travel the path of least resistance. So let's see, how does it want me to hook this up? Basically hook it up in there somehow. Doesn't really tell you how you should be hooking this up. I don't like that at all. That's it. Why does it want me to replace the platform? So it says power off the printer. The equipment is in shutdown after the hotbed is cooled. Turn off. Then the glass board can be replaced. I'm not sure why it's asking me to do that. I think I know why they gave you that screwdriver, that flathead. And if this is the old style glass bed, I'm already not going to dig it. No, it looks like it's the new one. The new one is actually kind of nice, adhesion-wise. The old ones, I had a heck of a time getting adhesion on those beds. I didn't like anybody's. The only one that worked was the Anycubic one. But like, G-Tech's one didn't work very well for me. Creality's didn't. Like, nobody had a good bed that I liked. I just hope it's level, because I know that's a consistent issue with Creality printers. Okay. So now we put those back on. And pretty much we're going to set up all the electronics now. So we're going to set up the Z end stuff, which we've been up over here. There's the Z end stop. Good thing they gave us those snippers, because we're going to need it for snipping that. And always be careful when using those snippers, because you know you can destroy your wiring, and that would be bad. Okay, so we have 5 people viewing right now. All right. Pull that forward. Put that on. And of course, everything in typical Creality fashion is labeled, so we know what goes where. It looks like the X is already set up. Oh, we have a filament runout detector. Or I'm sorry, the Y is already set up. The X we have to plug in. So here's that. That's the E. There's that, and then where's our filament runout detection? So, alrighty, we can't really fit. We can't. When the Z is maxed out, you can't plug in the filament runout detector. So, pro tip for those who are printing full size volume on this. Yeah, that's going to be a stretch. Now, I'm sure we could probably unloosen something inside the board. Hopefully there's some extra room or space. But as of right now, that filament runout detection is not getting plugged in, because it's about 2 inches away. It's here, and this is where it should be. So, yeah. Unless this is supposed to be wrapped around the other side here, which I highly doubt. So we're going to have to bring this down. And get it all situated. That's a little bit better. So it might just need some tension around the corner here. So I'm going to put it right up against the filament holder. And we're going to hopefully that'll be good where it needs to go. And that way we should have more than enough room, because yeah, that's better. So you want to have this a little bit off to the side underneath the back leg here. So, can you open the Coke with them? I would if I had some. I'm actually currently all out. Yes, I drank them all. I gotta make a Costco run. All right, let's see where it says to connect on the screen, because I don't believe it did. Unless I skipped that step. No. Doesn't say. So, pro tip for anybody who's hooking this thing up, it does not tell you where you need to connect the wire for the screen. Now, I'm going to go off of my gut instinct here and say that it's an EXP3, if I remember correctly, because this one does have the triple on it. Maybe it's EXP1. We'll find out here in a second. And then our power cable is here at the bottom. And it looks like they're using better XT60 connectors, not the ones, on the other Enders that tend to start on fire or have issues with fires. So the picture on Amazon show the cable harness going along the side of the printer like you have it now. Okay, yeah. So I just kind of did that out of the box and saw how it was. So this thing, I'm not really, it's cool, but it's kind of a pain to tighten on there. There's no real good way to get this thing on. Just kind of snaps in there a little bit, but obviously it comes off very easily, which I'm not too keen about. All right, so I think we're all good. Throw out that sheet of paper. I'm going to use that for leveling. Okay, I think we're good. We're ready to fire her up. Let's get our power cable. And we'll find out if I plugged it into the right connector. Which I didn't. Oh. There we go. Yeah, so pro tip for anybody who's building one of these, EXP3 is where you want to plug this into. So this screen seems a little bit more vibrant than the Enders I used to remember. I don't know if maybe it's just me. All right, so let's take a look. Let's go back into the manual because it says level platform. Here is one of the things that I absolutely despise about Creality printers that I love about my G-Tech printers. My G-Tech printers, they had a feature where it was a level corner feature. So you went into the menu, you preheated your hot end and your bed, and then you would go down and press level corners. It would auto home and set up your first corner for you. So it would go around and do the 4 corners for you every single time. You just click it and it would go to it. Whereas this disables the steppers. Now, yeah, that does still work, but it was better on the G-Tech because it based it off of when you still had power on your Z. Because when you do disable steppers, it disables it. So if there's any issues with your gantry, anything when you put it together, there was an issue with it, you would still have issues bed leveling. So that's one of the things that I don't like about it. Now with this model specifically, you don't really have that much of an issue with it because you're not putting together the actual gantry. The whole gantry is put together already. But on the Ender 3, Ender 3 Pro, and the Ender 3 V2 models, you still have to put together the gantry. So that's just my 2 cents on the whole thing. But so It looks like the Ender 3 Pro screen. Yeah, it's the same style. The 28, 12864, whatever it is, screen that the Ender 3 and the Ender 3 Pro have. So I would have thought that they put the V2 screen on here. That probably would have made it look a little bit better and sleeker. But I'm sure they'll make an Ender 3 V2 Max or Max V2 or something like that. The other thing I did notice is that it has a spring on the Z-Rod, which pretty much no Creality machines that I'm aware of have that. In fact, I know the CR10S Pros had an issue where the gantry would, or the whole entire gantry would sag a lot, and that would pose an issue. So that might actually be a good upgrade, and why they actually went with a single Z-Rod access instead of a dual. So that might actually be beneficial for people who are running a single Z. Another thing is, I believe this is a metal extruder, unlike the other Creality machines that come with plastic. It might just be harder plastic. Yeah. It's just a fancier looking plastic. So it might be a little bit better than the original ones, but well, we'll see. Alright, so now on here, one of the things that I don't like that they don't tell you is that, well, I guess it does it after the fact. Let's see here. Yeah, so what it should do is on page 9 it says the preheat. Really on page 7 it should say preheat, and then page 9 it should say level the bed. Because the reason why you want to level the bed when it's hot is because that's what you're doing when you're printing. 90% of the time, people are going to print with a hot bed. It's very rare that anybody even turns off the bed. You can, and you can print PLA perfectly fine on a cold bed. But it's just the fact that, you know, you have it, so most people just use it, and it's automatically set up in your slicers to be set up for that. So anyway, let's go down to prepare. We're going to preheat PLA, and we're going to let that heat up. So we're just going to go through here and basically see what it says. So for leveling the bed, you go on to the next page. It says move the nozzle near the top of the leveling nut, screw it down. Another upgrade that they did do on this is they put the yellow leveling springs. They're more orangish, but they are yellow. So they are stiffer springs on this unit. So that's nice that they decided to do an upgrade for it. When you put the SD card in, you put it upside down. And this is a click-in SD card. I don't remember if the original Enders had that. It's been a long time since I've had an old school Ender on my hands. Just because my terrible track record with them. So it is moving a good amount of air on that. I'm worried about the hot ends. I'm worried this is going to push too much air on it. Like, I can feel the air right here. A good amount. What clicks? Oh, the Ender 3. I gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so like, this is the amount of space that I can feel the air. Like a good amount. Like, as if I'm going like that. Like, that's how much air is coming out of here right now. So I'm really concerned that it's gonna overcool this. That's what I'm concerned about right now. Now I know these are smaller fans. They're not 50-15s. These are 40-15s. I got the yellow springs later for my Ender 3 Pro. Yeah, so the yellow springs automatically are a huge upgrade on any Ender V3 model if they're not on there. I don't think that V2 that I did for the giveaway had yellow springs on it, but we bought some yellow springs. Well, actually, a member decided to buy some springs for it and basically throw them in. So, all right. So we're just waiting for it to heat up right now. Unfortunately, this is the Creality machine, so they have it set up to where the hot end reaches, or I'm sorry, the bed reaches the temperature first, and then the hot end goes up. Now, I could have overridden that and did the hot end, but I didn't know what temperature it was set at. Probably going to be 190, but it's pretty much at its bed. Its bed temperature. It's supposed to be at 60. So, yeah, right now we're pretty toasty. So now it should be going up to the hot end, which is set at 200. So we're going to see how well this heats. So it's actually heating pretty good. It's going about every 3 to 4 degrees. Yeah, pretty much. 3 to 4 degrees. So it's not too bad. So we'll level this. We'll print out the test dog. I'm sure that's on here. In fact, let's take a look at what's on the card here. It says no TF card. That's awesome. There we go. So we have some stuff that's on there, troubleshooting, user manual. So there is not even a test model on here. I think you have to go in and extract the model on your computer. So let's go ahead and put this in. And let's extract the model, if we can. If not, I'm just going to throw a model on there and go from there. Because there's no need for me to print a test model. Yeah, I used to use a mirror when I had my old Enders, because they were terrible with the leveling. Don't tell me this card is corrupt already. Alright, let's try a different reader, because apparently the cheap Chinese one that they gave us doesn't work. Let's try our fancy SanDisk one. There we go. Alright, so let's go and we'll do large icons. So we have a cool maze, monkey, a vase, shell, Klein bottle. You know, maybe we'll yeah, so they basically don't have any models set up here ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're just going to throw a model on there because I would like to start printing anyway. So let's go and we'll put on a bunch of models. And let's go. Where is my mask?
All right, let's let's do that.
Okay. So we're printing out something for our deburring tool. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to go down to prepare and we're going to go to auto home. We're going to cut our filaments on an angle. I'm not a BL Touch guy. I had a terrible time with a BL Touch, and I won't ever use one. So it basically destroyed everything, which kind of set off my my Ender 3 issues. I personally like the Easy ABL sensor, but I'm a little biased because, well, after I bought the Easy ABL sensor, I started working for TH3D Studio, who makes the Easy ABL sensor, kind of in the background, and then once they moved to a new shop area, I actually worked for them professionally for 3D printing. So I may be a little bit biased on that, but that's my personal favorite. Just because there's nothing moving. I have a printer that has a BL Touch on right here out of the box, called a Minda D3 Pro. It's a little bit bigger than this printer, and it's hit or miss at times. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to prepare and we're going to disable steppers. And we're going to level the build plate. Now, I usually go around a couple times just to make sure that everything is level. But it's possible the Z height might be set a little too high on it already out of the factory. So I'm just kind of gauging this manually right now. And then I'm going to go to the front like as if I'm doing it from the get-go. Yeah, we're going to have to bring that Z height down a lot. Pretty sure of it. Close there. Yeah, that Z height is set really, really high, but we're going to try and get it from factory and see if we can get a height on it. A little bit. go. I don't like how loose that is, but it might be okay. Oh, I'm pretty sure this bed is worse. I think I feel it. I can feel it. Alright, so now we're going to go and print our little holder. So what we're going to be printing, if I can find it, wherever I put it, basically it's a deburring tool. So it gets all the edges off of it and everything. Pull the bed back. That's not right. Filament change. Oh, hey, it'd be nice if we loaded some filament on there, eh? Eh? I sound like my buddy Steve. Well, at least the filament runout sensor works. That's a nice pat. Okay, we're gonna heat up. Now I'm going to stop the print because I forgot to auto home. So we're going to, okay, so now that it's homed, we're going to print. That's why the bed came forward and it zeroed out. Hey, I don't claim to be a professional in any way, shape, or form. And the funny thing is I was like, oh, I got to make sure that I load filament. And then I went on to bed leveling and completely didn't even cross my mind. So no, unlike some people, I admit my fault. So no, I forgot about that completely. I'm really digging that they added this because this is a lot. Well, that's great. OBS just decided to disconnect itself for no earthly reason. But at least we're back up online. Alright, prime line is looking good. Let's get that crap off there. looking good so far. I don't see any wobbliness of the bed. I am printing a little bit off center because, well, I didn't set up the profile for it. I used my Soval setup, which, I mean, it is a Creality machine, but it's a CR10 Mini. Yes, that is a filament dryer by Sunmu. Now, it's not plugged in because this spool of filament is okay. But if I ever needed to, I can plug it in. We're dragging a little bit. I don't know why. Could just be the model, could be the SD card, it could be a ton of things. So currently we're not using the dual fans. That's what I want to see when it starts actually doing its first layer. So, how big of a spool can it handle? Well, your typical spools. A 2.2 kilogram. I'm sorry, not a 2.2. A 1 kilogram spool or 2.2 pounds. I just did that the other day too. So. But we're looking good. I'm pretty happy so far. Like I said, my main concern is when it goes to the first layer there. Because I don't know if it's going to enable both fans or just do one fan or both fans at a lower speed rate. Because the issue is when you usually go to dual fans, now granted those are 50-15, so they blow a lot of air. You usually have to put them at like 50%. So it's kind of pointless to have dual fans, but it's nice because you have the fans going on each side. So, but yeah, that's the issue is unless you're running a large nozzle, there's no benefit to going a dual fan when you can get a single fan and get a modification part fan to go all the way around or have dual flow. So, it's raining here very much, and I am getting a lot of filament problems. That'll definitely help. Those things work very, very well. You can set it on a timer. They are not very cheap, but you know, they do work very well. If you're looking for a cheap one to go with, you can make one out of a storage bin, as long as it can fit a spool. You just put a rod through the storage bin and then pour some silica gel in the bottom, and that'll ensure that all of your filament that's in there will be good. So there's tons of things on Thingiverse that you can look for where people have you know, done like the IKEA box, and then they put like a PTFE tube that comes out, and then they have, you know, 5 or 6 different rolls in there, and yeah, that's what you can do. So those are really, really cool. Back when I was FDM printing a lot, I was going to set up something like that where I was going to make a filament dryer, and that's the other option you have too. There's lots of files out there where you can actually make your own filament dryer as well. So that's another option that you can throw out there as well. No, this is water. It's only had water in it. It will only ever have water in it. But so far, so good. We're not looking too bad. don't see any bumps, really, any ridges. I mean, there's a spot where there is a line through it, but I don't know if that's the G code, a bad SD card, or if it's just that it's pumping out too much filament and it needs to be turned down. I haven't really dialed in my settings in a long time, so I don't know how well it's actually tuned still. So, have I ever made a dual Z setup? I've never made one. When I worked for TA's 3D Studio, by the time I was leaving, we were just getting in dual Zs. So, they are a nice addition to any printer, because if you find it, like the one that we sold through TA's 3D Studio, not only was it a dual Z setup, but it was a dual belt linked Z setup. And I will tell you, we had that on one of the printers that we were working with, and we took it on a car ride, like an hour and a half car ride through bumpy back roads and like Amish country. And we took it off. It was printing. Put it in the car. Went on our journey. Took it out to go to Murph. Put it on the showroom floor. Clicked print, and it started right away. No messing around, anything. We didn't even have to baby step it. Like, that's how awesome that stuff is. So if I can find a dual Z setup for this, I will definitely get one. But I don't think I'm going to keep this printer around for that long. The reason being is I don't really print too much with FDM printers. So while I like to test them out, review them, and get my thoughts about it, it's not something that I utilize a lot. I usually print them for useful parts, like, you know, things like this, like a cup holder or a pen holder. So I use that. If you guys have seen some of my videos for the reviews, my wall is filled with wall-mounted stuff. So, so I print it for useful items when I'm using FDM. And closed loop, yes, it's a closed loop belt system. So it's a specific size that sits on the top here, and there's two teeth or toothed, what do they call those? Like, basically what the belts run on. They're like a gear, and they're toothed gears, and they're one on each side, and they're linked together. So as long as you level your gantry on both sides perfectly, it will never ever unlevel itself ever again. So it's a really, really cool concept. I don't know why more printer manufacturers don't have it. It does save a lot of headache for a lot of people, because 99% of the problems that people have when they're first starting out is getting a bed level good. And that has to do with not only just the bed being level, but the gantry being level as well. Because there's a lot of weight on this side, but nothing on this side. So you end up falling on this side, and then you get this loose. Then to top it all off, you actually put together this gantry. So these two screws right here, if they're not insanely tight, this will sag, and you'll be like losing your mind trying to figure out what's going wrong with it. And that's the issue, is that these bolts aren't tight, so it's letting the whole gantry sag. So what they need to do is make some sort of like a clip that goes on here so it doesn't ever sag. Because that was a huge issue that I fought with for at least like 6 months when I first got into 3D printing. I was losing my mind trying to figure out why it wasn't working and what is going on. Why was this side of the bed working but the other side wasn't? And I had an auto bed leveling system. I had a BL Touch at that time, and it just wasn't working. And I was like, what is going on here? And then, yeah, it clicked in my mind. I'm like, okay, well, let's check this. So I checked the eccentric nut on the inside here of this roller, and when I went to go and move it, the whole thing like jolted up a little bit, and I'm like, well, that's not good. So I ended up having to remove the entire gantry, resetting the screws, and then it was much better. But at that point in time, the Ender was still giving me issues nonstop, whether it be a hot end issue, an extruder issue. I mean, me and the Ender 3 series just don't get along. I don't know if we ever will. I even started having a little bit of issues with the Ender 3 V2 there at the end, but I was able to fix it. Again, it was a loose gantry on the right side, so I had to snug it up to the rail. So it's small little things that people don't think about. I think that's actually part of the file.
Dual Z will work awesome for the weight of a direct drive. Yes.
Yes, the direct drive system puts an insane amount of weight on the entire gantry. So again, going back to if you're printing a long print and you go to the right side here, well, guess what? You're going to have a bad day because the weight of that gantry is going to pull this down because there's nothing supporting this besides wheels. So if this is not properly snugged up against this rail, you're just gonna have bad days, and you're gonna be losing your mind as to why. So what about the A8? So the A8 in general is it's a very beginner printer. I always suggest 2 printers for people who are getting into 3D printing, because they're the best two to get you into what you're doing. Now, if you're someone who wants to know the back end of what you're doing and kind of understand the whole system and how it works and comes together, by all means, get yourself an A8. They have come a long way from what they used to be. They used to be terrible fire hazards. But they're a lot better now than what they used to be. I still suggest flashing different firmware on them and putting a MOSFET on it because they are still basic systems. They don't have a lot of things that higher end printers have, or medium end printers even, or even some of the lower end printers even. But at this point in time, it's kind of a moot point to even get an A8 style printer because there's so many printers that are like the Ender 3 that are out and about that are even cheaper than the Ender 3, and they work just as well. So, but I mean, for the price range, you're only saving yourself maybe $100 at some points, depending on where you're getting it from, because you can get an A8 for around $100 or so, sometimes even 80 at the lowest, if you find a rebrand. But yeah, so if you're wanting to get into the 3D printing and learn exactly what you're doing, the A8 is a great machine to start with. But if you're someone who just wants to get out there and start printing, there's a whole slew of machines out there. There's the Ender 3, the G-Tech A10, the JG Maker, JG Maker Magic. There is the Anycubic i3. There's the Wanhao i3, which is basically the same one. The Elegoo Neptune, that's another i3 machine. There's Anycubic that has their Anycubic Zero. Even better, the version 2.0, which actually has a heated bed now. So there's a lot of printers out there that are starter printers that are under $225, and they'll get you a fantastic print. So, and we can go on to fighting the good fight of between Ender printers and Prusa printers and things like that. But in all reality, I did have both an Ender 3 and a Prusa MK2, which is like the best Prusa you could ever own, and there was a difference between their print quality. While they both printed very, very well, the Prusa printed a lot better. Like, I would be stating that it was comparable to a resin printer without any tuning. That's what I'm talking about. Like, an Ender 3, you gotta tweak some profile a little bit here and there, and make sure that it's doing it right. So, whereas a Prusa, you just set it and forget it, basically. And it had profiles set up automatically on the machine for PLA, PETG, and ABS. So you could just go ahead and click print and be on your merry way. Secondly, with Prusa printers, they have a very, very nice, simple, straightforward, like idiot-proof setup. And it basically has its own wizard to check everything. It checks the belts. It checks your hot end. It checks your probe. Like, it does everything for you. It'll tell you, like, hey, this is messed up on this side, so check it. Or this is messed up on that side. Or the belt is messed up. It's not tensioned right. Like, that's how insane it is. Like, it'll actually calculate the distance that it takes from going to one end to the other with the belt. And it'll say, hey, this is going too fast or this is going too slow. It's either too tight or it's too loose. So, there are some benefits to Prusa stuff. Is it worth the $750 price tag? It's debatable. The reason I say that is because, well, you can turn any budget printer into a Prusa, basically. I just had basically an argument about this with someone online, and they were like, yeah, it's an Ender 3, but you could buy a Prusa. And I'm like, that's great and all, but a Prusa is almost 3 times more expensive than an Ender 3. And not to mention there's a 3-month wait. It might be a little bit less now, but there's a 3-month wait for a Prusa than there is a Ender 3. In those 3 months, I can take an Ender 3, a basic stock Ender 3, for $160, go out and buy it, and upgrade every single part on it, and still be within budget of a Prusa, and have it print just as good, if not better, and have higher quality parts on it. So, wish I could make my own a Max one day. Yeah, they're out there. Like I was just talking about, the Ender Extender kits. Those are amazing little kits. I was actually thinking about doing that with the Ender 3 V2 and just having like an ultimate giveaway, but just timing and everything, I couldn't get it all situated in time. So. Excuse me. So it looks like we're doing pretty good. I don't really see any issues with it. There is a line on it, but again, I don't think that's a printer issue. It might be a model issue. Could also be that I'm on a super wobbly table too. And again, my profile probably has been out of tune for a while. I never really tuned it, to be in all honesty. I just print it. So, but yeah, so far this is printing very well. I don't really have any issues with it so far. So some key points on this right now, just right off the bat. The extruder setup is really nice. I think that's a plastic extruder. I'm not 100% sure. Nope, it's a metal extruder. So it is a metal extruder, so that's nice that it has that as an upgrade. It has a filament runout sensor, which is something that all of the Ender series should have, and really every single printer should have a filament runout sensor. It's probably the best investment that you can put on a printer. The reason being is, most of the time we leave our printers running, and when you have an Ender printer or Creality or any printer that doesn't even have a filament runout sensor, let's say something snaps or you run out of filament and you think you had enough, that happens, and well, you just lost your whole print. So it's always best to have that. So I always suggest having a filament runout sensor. It does have a mean well power supply. Now I haven't verified if it actually is a true mean well, but it does look like it at least. At the very least, it's a Landy power supply, but I'm pretty sure it's a Meanwhile. The filament path for what they provide, this piece, that's kind of nice. It's right in the direct path of the filament runout sensor. That's another good thing about the filament runout sensor and the extruder is the path that it leads through is perfect. It's probably one of the best I've ever had to deal with right now. So I really, really like that. So kudos to them for making a good filament path area to where I'm not having to like stab around and like try and get in there. At least for right now. Now we've only done a little bit of printing right now, but maybe over time when there's some dust that collects in there, that might change. But for right now, out of box, it's doing pretty good. Again, I don't know what board it's running, but obviously it is a silent board because all I hear is just the massive amount of air being blown by those fans. That's another good thing about this printer is that it has the dual fans on it. So for those who want to get real crazy and do some like crazy overhang stuff, and do like insane benchies or what have you, stuff that doesn't need supports, that's definitely going to be a plus side for you. So is it worth it to get this over a regular Ender 3? Absolutely. Yeah. This is probably the best Ender 3 that I've seen, that I've had to deal with. Even better than the Ender 3 V2. The only thing that makes the Ender 3 V2 a little bit better in terms of what it has on it is on that machine it has the adjustable belt tensioners. But with that being said, you can print your own adjustable belt tensioners and you're on your merry way. You could also buy them. They're pretty cheap too. I just saw somebody post them up there and they were like, I think $20 for both of them. So, I mean, that's a steal. So go ahead and get that. Yellow bed springs. So all around, they did a really, really nice job with all of this. The only wonky thing that I'm not digging about is that I wish they had a planted power supply on the actual base frame. I don't like that it's supported and hung on the upright here. I don't think it's going to be a major issue, but because of the way that it's slotted in there. But it would just be nice to have it off of there and actually on the base rails. So, but that's pretty much all I have to say about this. It's a very nice printer. Like I said, it's probably the best Ender 3 series printer out there. So I really, really dig it so far. And this spool holder is kind of nice. I really like that. Let's chit chat. I've had my Ender 3 for 2 months now, and with the exception of a power surge frying the power supply and control board, I've had no problems. Of course, I've been upgrading mine as I go along. I'm now running the 4.27 board and loving it. You ever work with the Ender 5? Yeah, so killing myself. Or killing my feed, I should say. There we go. OBS is just playing games with me today. I updated it right before I did this, and that was probably an unwise decision. Anyway, back to your comments. You ever work with an Ender 5? Yes, I have. Several, actually. I helped out my buddy set up his Ender 5, which I got to go back there because he did something with it, and now it's not printing right, so I got to take a look at it. I just haven't had a time to go out there. I've just been busy with everything. That's one of the reasons why we're doing such a late stream, because I just don't have the time right now to do this. And I wanted to get this out because we're going to do some promoting on the group for this printer. So I wanted to get it out there. But anyway, Ender 5, yes. It's a very solid machine. It is a Cartesian machine, meaning it's uses the same style, even though looks like it's a Core XY, it is not. The actual Core XY printer that they have, I believe, is an Ender 6. That's the first Core XY printer that they have. Now they do have some like industrial printers that aren't really too known, And they're real goofy looking printers. But yeah, the Ender 6 is actually a Core XY, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But the Ender 5 is just a Cartesian style, so it uses belts, but it runs the same way that this printer does. So in terms of Ender 3 versus Ender 5, the Ender 5 is going to be a better investment because it's more of a stable machine. It's just the gantry itself is what makes it so much better because, like I said, unless you do a dual Z upgrade, that's the only way that you can get to an Ender 5 level in terms of stability, all around printing stability. Because that's really where the Ender 5 shines because it runs on a rail system and much like a Core XY. But that's one of the things is that the bed goes up and down instead of going back and forth and everything like that. So the hot end stays on a rail system and it never gets unleveled. So if there's ever a leveling problem, it is 100% your bed. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So yeah, I personally like the Ender 5 series. They're really, really nice printers, but I mean, they take up just about as much as an Ender 3 Max. Now with this printer, because it's notched out on the sides here, the uprights are actually more stable. So my whole concern with it pulling the frame back a little bit, it might happen a little, but it wouldn't be too bad because, like I said, it's notched in the actual frame rails. So it seats very, very well. So they actually kind of thought a little bit through this. Now, if they made the regular Ender 3 like this, it would probably be a more stable machine than most of the printers out there. So, but that's to be seen. But yeah, other than that, guys, I mean, that's pretty much it. I'm not going to let you sit here for the next 2 hours while this prints out. But I just wanted to show it off, unbox it, give you my initial thoughts on it. We're going to do what we normally do. We're going to print with this thing for about a week or so, and then we're going to do our actual review and let you guys know what we think of it. But initially, right now, like I said, this is by far the best Ender 3 that's out there on the market. So if you're looking for an Ender 3 and you got a little bit more money to spend, this is definitely a nice machine. So I would definitely take that into consideration when purchasing a new printer or a bigger style printer because you do have a bigger build volume and with the glass bed and everything and the metal extruder, filament runout sensor, the dual fans, that right there, I'll even throw in the Meanwell power supply. All that stuff right there is worth every part of the money that you spend on here because you're still under a CR10 build and you're getting better stuff than a CR10. And a CR10 is pretty much the same build volume, or similar, I should say. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm not going to talk your guys' ear off anymore. I'm going to get going here, let this print go overnight. We'll send out some pictures of how everything went, and yeah, we're basically going to go from there. So until next time, guys, happy printing.